Hi guys, welcome to another Mystery Monday. I am late, but here I am with my October most anticipated releases. See you after the intro. Okay, I'm here. I'm still trying to get my game back. You can see I'm in a different spot because this girl has been going around. But I have some books that I'm really looking forward to. No surprise here. There's a lot of horror. And I don't know, I'm just feeling the Halloween vibes. See these? Nice. And especially this one. But anyway, so I'm really excited for this month. It is fall, it's Halloween, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I think October is going, I don't know why. It took me all my life to realize this. But it's one of my favorite months of the year, along with December, August, and May. And that's it. That's where I draw my line, I think. Anywho, distraction. So I'll try to go over these books really fast. Some of them I have already talked about before. So I'll be linking those videos where you can hear more about the book. If you don't want to take my word for it, then these books are worth reading. But anyway, let's start with October 5th, tomorrow. This is one of the, it's like Christmas, but not. Because so many good books are coming here. Two of them about witches. I love them. I'm one of them. But Keckle, I've talked over and over and over again, is a horror book by Rachel Harrison, where we have Annie, who life just basically went to shit. And she decides to start over and move to this idyllic town. And she meets a friend, and life is beautiful. She has a great job. Only it seems like the people that live in the town don't really like her gorgeous, fascinating, magnetic friend. And her friend is really beautiful and looks quite ageless. She also lives in this house in the middle of nowhere. Could she be a witch? Read the book and find out. And I heard there's some spiders in here, so be warned. Next, we have The Lighthouse Witches, which is a gothic horror fantasy book by C.J. Cook. And we have Mom Liv, Clover, Sapphire, and Luna. They are two generations of women. They move to this Scottish quaint town because Mom Lives gets commissioned a job. She's a painter, and they move into this lighthouse. One day, out of the blue, two of the girls go missing. They don't really return, and the town has this lore. They believe that some women were accused of witchcraft in the past, and they exerted revenge by throwing a curse in the town. And there's also talk about some wildlings, which are creatures that look exactly like children, but are not. And the town has decided that every time they meet these wildlings, they should kill them. Fast forward 20-something years. Mom is not there. She disappeared too. Nobody knows where anyone is, except for Luna, who's now pregnant and get this call. The police reach out to her because her sister Clover was found. She's over the moon. She never stopped looking for them. Finally, they found them. She can get some answers. Hopefully, Clover can lead her to find her mom. Her sister Sapphire, she goes there. Boom. And then Clover comes to meet her exactly as she was 22 years ago, still a 7-year-old. Could she be a wildling? We don't know, but if you read the book, you find out. But C.J. Cook writes so beautifully, so poetic. I have read the book Spoiler alert is fantastic. Review is coming. But this is a wonderful book. I loved everything that happened in it, and I think it really delivered on the Gothic promise. So move on to The Death of Jane Lawrence, which is a horror by Caitlin Starlin. And we have Jane, who is a feminist ahead of her own time, but really, who knows, because this book kind of takes place in a alternate universe that is similar enough to ours, but is also different enough. But she just wants to do her own thing. But unfortunately, society is a little sexist, and she knows that the only way she can have freedom is by basically finding a beard in the form of a husband. She comes to Dr. Lawrence and say, "Hey, boo, marry me. And we don't have to consummate the wedding. You can continue to do your own thing. I just need these fools to think I'm married so I can be my independent self." He goes, "Okay, you know what? I'll marry you. I like what you bring to the table, but I do not want you to come to my old house. My family home where I go every night. So as long as, you can keep away from that, you can live in my practice." Okay. I can do that. I mean, it's not like your house is nice or anything. I don't know if she thought that. But anyway, she agreed. They marry. They have dinner at the house during the day, but at night she has to be gone. Only as she's leaving, there's an accident, and she has to come back walking and knock on the door. He opens the door, but when he opens the door, he looks paranoid, out of himself. He lets her in because he has no choice, but something is really wrong. That's not her husband. The next morning, he's back to his normal self, and there's more to it than meet the eyes, and we go from there with the story. That's The Death of Jane Lawrence. Next, we have Last Girl Ghosted by Lisa Unger. I really like the way she writes, even though I only read one of her books. But this one seems really interesting. Here's what happens, okay? There's this app, a dating app called Torch. Ren goes on it. She wants to find something. She finds a lot of hookups. So this is more, let's call it more Plenty of Fish or Tinder than it is eHarmony, okay? But she's still looking for someone. She meets the guy. They hit it off right away. And they go into this relationship that moves on quite fast, and they both seem to be right on it. 3 months pass by, and then all of a sudden they have a date. She goes, boom, he never shows up to the restaurant. She leaves. She goes to his house. He actually doesn't live there. She checks his socials. He deleted them all. So yes, she's being ghosted, but she suspected there's a little bit more than that. Then all of a sudden, it seems like he did the same thing to someone else, because a detective knocks on her door trying to get more information about this guy. So she is trying to figure out what is happening here, and goes almost on a chase to find this guy and piece everything together, and hopefully even use it on her podcast. She has one. But we don't know here if Ren is the predator or the prey, because she also has things to hide. This sounds like a really good book, and this is the only thriller out of the ones coming out October 5th that I'm looking forward to. On October 12th, we have When Things Get Dark. It's a horror anthology by Ellen Dello, and she commissioned a lot of amazing horror writers to write short stories inspired by Shirley Jackson. I'm here for it. So they're not here to kind of copy her style, but to write stories based on the feels they get when she writes. So I mentioned this before, I love horror anthology. It is my preferred intake, and this one did deliver. It was beautiful, it was haunting, and some of the stories are just mind-blowing. We have Josh Mellerman, Poe Tremblay, Cassandra Clare, Stephen Graham Jones. There's a lot of good names that wrote short stories, and amazing. Then we have Death at Greenway. It's a thriller. It's by Laurie Raider Day. And in this one, all I had to know about it is Greenway House. If you don't know, that's Agatha Christie's estate. So I was really curious to read a book that is set in that place. In it, we have, I never heard of it, Bridie Kelly. Maybe that's a name, Bridie, who calls himself that. I mean, oh wow, that girl did respect here. But anyway, so Bridie Kelly, she's a nurse trainee. She works at a hospital in London. She makes a mistake that costs her job, and the only way to kind of go back into the nursing field that she wants is to kind of start fresh from somewhere else to recover her reputation. So she ends up at Greenway House, which at the moment is housing children that have been evacuated from London after the Blitz. So we're talking 1940s here. So she's in there. She really likes it, but there's its quirks. First of all, there's a beautiful library full of murder books. There's curious she can't touch and rooms she can get in. And there's a very mysterious nurse that also works with her, Gigi. Always fine and dandy, until one day, out of the river that flows through the property, they find a body who's not a casualty of war. He was murdered. I mean, that makes my heart sing. But anyway, she suspects he was murdered. And then both her and Gigi are kind of investigating this crime, but as they get more and more into what happened to him, they also realize that they each have something to hide. And we go from there. I read a book that actually has Agatha Christie as a character. I hated it, but I still have high hopes for this one. I don't know if Agatha is going to be a character or not, but her house definitely is. So that's all you needed to say, and I was there. Next, I have this thing Between Us. It's a horror book by Gus Moreno. And we follow Vera and Tiago. They marry. And they buy this smart house, Itza. And things seem to go well, but then some of the things that start happening in the house seem to be like hauntings. And they deal with it. Only one day Vera dies. And because of the way she died, and the house might have had something to do with it, of course, they are the center of attention. There's people wanting to know his stories, politicians wanting to use his case either for or against the use of smart houses and things like that. He cannot cope with that anymore, so he decides to go to a cabin to escape everything and be able to process his grief. Only his grief doesn't find an outlet. Instead, it finds this monster that seems to be chasing Tiago and feeding off this exact grief. So that's all I know about the book. I don't know if it makes sense or not, but it sounds really good. I don't know when I'll read it though. I like grief is like one of those triggers for me. I have to be in the mood, and I have to line up a book about grief with other ones that can take my mind off it. So I will read it sometime this year. I just don't know if I'll quite read it in October or the first time I can get my hands on it. Next, we have October 13th, The Midnight Man by Caroline Mitchell. And it's basically about this, it's a thriller. And in this thriller, there's the lure of the Midnight Man. If you open your door to the Midnight Man, hide with a candle, whatever you can. Try not to scream as he draws near, because one of you won't be leaving here. So, of course, 5 teenagers decided it would be a great thing to do on a Halloween. some of them Midnight Men in this abandoned house in the outskirts of the city they live in. So they write their names on the paper, put like a drop of blood. They put them under the door, knock 22 times right at midnight. And apparently the Midnight Man comes because one of them never makes it home. And from then we get this detective, Noble, who is just going back to the force, and somehow she knows quite a lot about Black Hole Manor, and she is, finds herself right in the middle of this. And it seems like the Midnight Man might be after her too. So we'll see. On October 14th, we have The Watchers by A.M. Shine. We follow Mina, who's driving around, happy as can be, and then her car dies because she was not aware that that's something that apparently happens a lot. Everybody knows that you don't drive through that road because weird things happen. She leaves the car and it's almost night, and then she hears all this screaming, and she feels like she's being chased, but actually it's someone trying to help her and tell her to go somewhere, and points at the bunker. So Mina runs, goes to the bunker, closes the door, and then it's really weird because when she gets to the bunker, there's other people, there's a glass wall, and apparently there's these beings that like watching them through the glass wall every time night falls. And she hears that if she leaves the bunker during the day, that's fine, but she has to be there because nasty things will happen to those who don't make it back in time. Everybody seems to accept the fate, but not Mina. She wants to figure out who these beings are and how to beat them because she wants to go back to her life. But I think this is going to be such a scary book. I can't wait to see these beings and see what Shine does with them. It's a debut novel, so jury is out. She might become another autobi, who knows. Then we have another horror, The Whistling by Rebecca Nedley. So this book I'm really looking forward to because it seems to have gotten everything I love in my mysteries and put it in a horror with everything I love in horror. We have Elspeth. She's a nanny and she looks after Mary. Okay? Mary used to have a twin, William, who died just days after their former nanny disappeared. Elspeth comes in, and then she hears lullabies in the halls. Dolls appear out of nowhere in rooms that were closed before. And something really weird is happening in her life, but you know what's coming? Winter. And you know what the winter is going to bring to this book? An isolated setting. Yes, I said it. So all of a sudden, Elspeth wants to get the hell out of that. But the house is kind of locked in from the winter. And the whistlings that come at night start to get stronger and stronger. So the real question here is Elspeth being faithful with her imagination, or is that something looming in the halls? Now we go to October 18th. We have Missed Me by Trevor Wilson. We have Mabel back. I love that waitress. She's in town. She's there to find racist pricks. She solved a crime. Her reputation went around the town. And we get this mom of a drug addict teenager who comes to her and says, my daughter is missing. I know everybody's thinking is drug related, but my mom's heart is telling me it's more than that. Can you please find my daughter? Mabel, of course, accepts the case, knowing that she'll probably have to go face to face with, the drug lord prick, which she's more than happy with. We also have the town sheriff that likes to sit on a fence and let the drug lord do whatever he wants to do and doesn't take action unless absolutely necessary. Well, Mabel's niece goes missing as well, and tensions and violence in the town starts to simmer and is getting close to an explosion. So guess what, Sheriff? You're gonna have to pick a side after all. On October 19th, we have Five Strangers by Evie Adamson. I'm really curious about this because it feels like it'll be like a character study and have a heavy hint of psychology into it. I'm hoping. So this is gonna be either book that I'll love or hate. But it's Valentine's Day, and London's Hampstead Heath is this idyllic park where grassy hills. You can see most of the town, and on the year this book takes place, is abnormally warm for February in England. So we have 5 random people, along with many more, that decide to go to this park to celebrate a day with their loved ones. They are each having their time of their life. They don't know each other, and then they hear this couple have a really big fight, like huge, so loud you could probably hear across the park. And this fight escalates fast and before anyone could process what is going on, and ends in a murder-suicide. Of course, these 5 people we follow are shaken to the core, but one of them, which is a disgraced journalist, Jen Hunter, she is compelled to question what she really saw. She starts to wonder, did everything actually happen exactly as they saw it? Or is there something bigger in there? Was that their mind playing tricks? Or was the case as plain as it seemed? It seems really interesting, and I think based on that, it might be one of those books where you dive in each person's perspective and what they saw and how they process based on their lives and personality. So I don't know. It's a book that really intrigued me, and I hope to get to it very soon. Next, we have Nothing by Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Clare. It's a novella. I talked a lot about it, but it's, this group of friends decide to have like a wedding party, really, at this abandoned Heian era mansion. And they think it would be a great idea, right? Would you not go to a wedding party that takes place in a mansion that is famous for being haunted by a bride that died? The question is how is this party gonna go, man? I don't have high hopes for these people. Finally, the last day, I have 2. One is a horror, another one is mentioned as a horror thriller, but I think it's more like a thriller. The true horror here is Where They Wait by Scott Carson. We follow Nick Bishop, who takes a job as writing a profile of a new mindfulness app called Clarity. So this is basically a white noise app that people that have problems sleeping or concentrated will play, and there's this haunting, beautiful voice of a woman singing a lullaby. And within seconds of starting to listen to the song, boom, everybody's fast asleep. That is all the rage. Okay, this is the app that is probably gonna get all those sleeping pills out of business. Big Pharma, watch out. Okay, only here's the thing though. After they fall asleep and they can't wake up, they have nightmares. And they have nightmares involve a woman's voice. And the more they listen to it, the more this voice starts following them during their waking time as well. And Nick will still find out that the people that hire him really have no interest at all in what he has to say, write a profile to sell the app. So he is one of 20 people that got to beta test the app, but is the only one who's still alive. And now The Unheard by Nikki Onichi French. So we have Tess. She's divorced, and she shares custody of their daughter Poppy. Poppy spends the weekend with Dad, then comes home, and when she comes home, she wants to draw, and she draws this horrific scene. When Tess asks Poppy about it, all Poppy says is he did kill her. She freaks out, calls her ex-husband. He says nothing happened during the weekend. It was like a great weekend, like it usually is. Apparently he's a good dad or whatever. But Tess is still very curious. So she takes Poppy to the doctors, and they say that this is probably a late reaction of popping processing the parent separation. But Tess is having none of that, and she's just determined to find out the truth. And of course, her quest for the truth is going to unearth a lot of dark secrets and crimes. So that's the Unheard. And those are the books that I am looking forward to the most in October. I'll link them all down below, as well as my Goodreads shelves for October, because there's many other books I'm looking forward to that you can go check them for yourself as well. Anyway, thanks for being here. See you on Wednesday. And until then, be the hummingbird. Bye.